Hello, everybody. Welcome to the debut of the SprintCarUnlimited.com live program, a show devoted to answering questions from fans, talking sprint car racing, and this week, maybe the Super Bowl. Whatever you guys want to do. To call in show, as I said, so the number is 1-844-543-8589. I don't have it memorized yet, so you'll have to excuse me for that. We're in Florida. Hotel room, not exactly the backdrop you guys are used to seeing me in front of, but hey, I just got in. Travel's great. Let me tell you, I hate it, but we'll make do this week and next week as well, because I'll still be in Florida and then we'll be back home the following Tuesday. But before we get to the phones, I wanted to hit on some storylines from last week and also looking ahead. Maybe give you guys something to talk about. Obviously, at the top of the list, Justin Peck. I didn't see him sweeping the ASCS National Weekend at Volusia, but he was fast. He dominated, leading 65 of 80 feature laps over 3 nights, banking $18,000 for his efforts, and tuning up for the 410 portion of the Dirt Car Nationals, which kick off tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. With World of Outlaws action. We'll talk more about that. But again, I didn't see this happening. A year ago at the World Finals, Peck looked really good. Came out of the box strong with Rudine Racing. Had a pair of third-place runs against the Outlaws and then finished 11th in the finale. But whatever they did over the offseason, I get that it was a 360 race, and I know some people have dismissed it as a lesser field. Obviously, it's not the Outlaws, but still an impressive run nonetheless. Moving on, Chase Randall. The news came out today that he will be running full-time with High Limit in 2025. And in doing so, he's going to do it in his own car. I mean, there seems like every car that came available in the offseason, he was at the top of everybody's list. Didn't turn out that way. With the help of Albot, which everybody knows from Carson Macedo, he's on the side of that car. Dennis Albach helping out, as well as other sponsors, and Chase Randall was able to get back with his own team. So now we'll see what he does on a national tour. He's looked pretty good in the past. I know a couple years ago, had some good runs against the Outlaws, then some against High Limit. Had some struggles too, crashed a little bit, but improved. He has 6 wins between Houston and Knoxville over the last couple of years. So obviously we'll see how he does with High Limit. So if you want to talk about that, we can. World of Outlaws, they kick off this week. 2025 season starts tomorrow, which is Wednesday. It's a non-points event. I hate it. I don't understand why this isn't a point event. You know, we have enough of these non-point show-up point type of races where they get 50. The gap's just not wide enough between these positions on a nightly basis. So I think they need all the point races they can get to make it interesting. We already have non-point shows for Knoxville, Nationals, and Kings Royal, and anything where there's a different format. So I'm not a big fan of this Wednesday deal being non-points, but nonetheless, it kicks off. We have 4 races, and then they come back to the Volusia in the beginning of March. Then we also have Carson Macedo. I think looking at, he's David Gravel's biggest challenger this year. And maybe some will say Buddy Kofoid. I'm not going to deny that. Kofoid's sophomore year. But Carson, double-digit wins on a regular basis. Last year, he was awful down at Volusia. He was breaking into new crew guys. Didn't work out. They had to swap some guys out after that event. Had a lot of ground to make up. He did. He made it closer at the end, but ended up falling short by 80 points to David Gravel. In the offseason, gets injured in Australia. So, you know, hobbled out to victory lane, celebrate a win by his brother Cole. Obviously, a significant leg injury. Now, I've been told that he has full range of motion, or good range of motion. He's not going to be running any marathons soon, so we'll have to see how that looks going into this week. And then, of course, we have Donnie Schatz. Donnie just hasn't been up to par or what we expect from him recently as a new crew chief this year. Todd Devnich takes over for Scuba, Steve Swenson. So we'll see how this all meshes. And, of course, you have the Ford. Obviously, Justin Peck looked good at World Finals with it last year. Donnie was able to pass cars. The 360 deal over the weekend wasn't a Ford. They don't make a 360. So that was a Chevy. I know some people weren't happy that he didn't thank Chevy in Victory Lane. I don't know if people realize, but Ford helps out the team. So that being said, those are kind of some of the hot topics going into this week. So we'll go to the phones, take any phone calls. Again, it's 1-844-543-8589. And we're waiting for our first call. And it's from Randy Kopp from the great state of Pennsylvania. Randy, what's up? Okay, we're waiting for Randy to come through. Some technical difficulties week one. Obviously, we'll work them out. I have a pretty good producer, Eric Schneck, who's helping me out with this deal. Again, something we're going to work out as we go. This is the first one. I'm in Florida. He's in Mechanicsburg. So we'll get to Randy in just a minute. Not sure why that's not coming through. But in the meantime, a couple of other things to look for at Volusia. David Gravel, obviously trying to defend his title. I'm not really sure how to look at I don't believe in asterisks, because Brad Sweet wasn't there. I'm not down with that. But nevertheless, they always say it's difficult to climb the mountain and it's harder to stay there. I don't know if that's the case for David Gravel because, honestly, as the same crew coming back for the most part, the resources were there. I have to think that the pressure was more extreme a year ago when, he was trying to get over the hump. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So again, we're waiting for a caller. Apparently that wasn't a caller. So we'll just keep talking until we get somebody to call in. Don't be afraid. But anyway, we do have our first one. It's Clifford from Western PA. Clifford, what do you got for me? Nope. Still waiting. Still having the same issue. Hopefully it wasn't on the chat. I don't really like chats that much because I don't want to sit here and read. But I do enough of that. But we're waiting for Clifford to come through. Again, just some technical issues. Hopefully we're getting it worked out. We might have a little bit of a delay as well, just with the software we're using, Call In Studio. I might have went to the bathroom too. Who knows? I always like dry run, these quick, I would say, dry runs where we kind of learning on the fly here. Again, if you guys call in, we could talk Justin Peck. How do you think he's going to do this week? I've been told, some people have emailed me and told me that, it's 360s. He'll barely qualify this week. I'm not buying into that. So Fords like when you drive aggressive, they like half miles. I think he'll be just fine. So I think he could even win this week. I think he's going to win an outlaw show this year. I think he's going to be a factor on the high limit tour. I'm not saying he's going to compete with Brad Sweet for the title. I think that's a tall order. And speaking of Brad, he's going to be down here this week. New crew chief Ty Wolfgang will be turning the wrenches, and Eric Prutzman will be moving over to Casey Kane, who will also be down here. So I'm anxious to see how he fares, how things go with how things go with with Casey. I liked what I saw from World Finals. Eric Prutzman, obviously an accomplished crew chief. So I expect him to be better as well. And I think I did a 90 at 9 and said he's going to win one this year. So going out on a limb a little bit on this one. See if we could get some calls to come through. See if we can also look at the chat. Maybe there's some questions in there as well. Randy Kopp, looking forward to the start of the racing season here in Central PA. Yes and no. February, I always thought was way too early, but I mean, it's just too early. And the season's too long. And we have 115 events in Central Pennsylvania. And I think that's just too many. I would like to see a streamlined schedule. I'd like to see them. I don't know. I would just like to see a shorter season. I understand, though, they're hit or miss. Hey, if you catch a good day, like a couple years ago where it was 70 degrees on a Thursday night, they moved it there, they hit a home run. So I just think it's like one every 4 or 5 years that does well. So, but they get 2 cracks at it. They have 2 races in one weekend for the icebreaker. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm anxious to see the storylines. Again, there's a lot of them. So check our volume here. Okay. Okay. Put the next caller through, see if we can make this work. Otherwise, we'll have to go to the chat and we'll clean it up for next week. But we'll see where we're at. See if they come through. Corey wants to talk Gio Scelzi. So I'm anxious to. Okay, Clifford, are you live? Still not coming through. Never like hiccups. Okay, checking my settings because maybe it's me. Communicating with my producer. Again, I apologize for the hiccups. It's the first time. Looking at audio. I think it's on my end. I think my speaker's off. And this is part of me being late. I rolled into my hotel about 7:20. So that's probably part of the problem. It's painful. Okay, let's see if we can make this work. Speakers should be. Let's see here. Now maybe this will work. Okay, See if this works. I changed the setting on my end. See if we can get a call through. Again, I apologize. I'll stay on longer this week.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Hey, there you go. It's about time.
Can you hear me, Jeremy?
I got you. I apologize.
How are you doing this evening?
What's that?
So this is Clifford. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, Clifford. How are you? I'm doing okay. A little hectic. Sorry, it took so long to get your call through. What do you have for me?
Let's talk All-Stars bouncing back after a year off.
Okay. Are you pleased All-Stars are back? What do you think of their driver roster? I mean, one of the things that I'm concerned about is this sport stars sell. The world of outlaws wouldn't be the world of outlaws. I know they have the name, but first it was Steve Kinzer, Sammy Snell, and other guys. And then it progressed, kept going. Then we get Donald Schatz, and then Brad Sweet. Now we have David Gravel, Buddy Kofoid, all these young stars. And I expected Pat Henry, some guys like that to sign up with the All-Stars. Didn't. But on the flip side, some young guys as part of the series. I like the schedule. I think 30 races is perfect. It doesn't, make the ecosystem in Ohio where it's like Pennsylvania in 115 races. So I like what they're doing. We'll see how it goes. I think Rich Farmer's trying to resurrect that series, and I think it could be. I think these regional series could end up being a good feeder system for the two national series, which I do think can coexist. So I hope that answered your question. All right. So, okay, let's access the chat because we're having some problems with the phone. Again, some bugs worked out. It could be where I'm at as well. Dwayne, I'm split on the fan reaction part. I'll get to both of these. Fan reaction, I think it's great for our sport. The fan interaction with drivers, it's a chance to meet the stars of the sport. I think that's great. But I will say this, and this might sound controversial. The most popular sports are your stick and ball sports, and you don't have access to the stars. You get limited access, and they're more popular because I think sometimes there's a mystery. There is you don't know everything about them, and I think there's some intrigue. People like finding out stuff. I think people consume it differently. So I'm really 50-50 on it. I like it in one aspect because you get to go down in the pit area. Kids get to meet those stars. But, when I go to an NFL game, I see a lot of kids wearing, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley jerseys. Obviously, it hasn't helped them. They have a younger demographic than us. And I know that sounds probably, some people will hate that answer, but, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. So, that's tough for me to answer that. I'm split on that. What are tracks doing to attract new fans? Not enough. Not enough. I was at a trade show this week in York, Pennsylvania, and 2 tracks weren't there. Port Royal and Selinsgrove weren't there. That's a chance to get in front of your fans for a weekend. and they weren't there. Now, Lincoln was there. Williams Grove was there. Williams Grove really stepped up their game with the banners they got. And Babs Motor Speedway right now, I know in central Pennsylvania, is doing the best out of most tracks that I've seen around the country. You know, there's a kids club. They're doing a 50% off deal that if you purchase tickets online before the season, 50% off. You know, I don't want to hear anybody complain about money when it comes to Babs Motor Speedway, because you're getting a chance to purchase these tickets at 50% of what they cost if you buy them now. And the refund policy, it's run through My Race Pass. It's great. If the race rains out, it gets deposited right back in your account. It's not hard at all. So racetracks aren't doing enough, but I think deals like that, things to make things easier for fans, I think multi-purpose, using your facilities for multi-purpose things like carnivals, monster trucks, you know, anything like that. I think all that stuff helps. Cliff Adams, he was cut off. I apologize. I apologize for that. He said he'd like to see the All-Stars be able to rebuild over the next few years. I would love for Ohio and Western Pennsylvania to be able to build what you guys have out east. It's going to be difficult. I'd like to see that, but I think central Pennsylvania is very, very unique. I think it's the number one area in the country. That's not me being a homer. It's just a fact. That's like gambling. If gambling does not get in Pennsylvania where you can wager on sports books, it's not going to take off. So I think Ohio's better than maybe what people think. I really like the Attica Fremont Challenge Series. We'll see how the All-Stars fit in, but I like what I see so far. I like the schedule. I like Ohio Speed Week, and we'll see how that roster does and see if they can move up. Matt Beasley, do you expect Freddie Raymer to have a comeback year? I know he better run better in that 51 than he did last year, because it was wretched. It was really bad. I do. I think he wins more than 2 races like he did last year. I think he's going to win the Lincoln Speedway title again. I think he's going to be one of the front runners for the Williams Grove title again. So I think it will be better being back in his own car. I don't know. I mean, he won 17 races with Rich Eichelberger 2 years ago. So obviously chemistry wasn't a problem, but I think there's something different being in your own car and the way they do things. So yes, I think it'll be a bounce back year. William Wagaman, congratulations on your first show, Jeremy. I know you get all the bugs worked out by April or one day. I expect to have them done by next week. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Zachary Settle from Settle Racing. What is your opinion on 2-day Lincoln Icebreaker? Do you like it, or would you prefer 1-day Icebreaker? I prefer them not to race in February, but 2 days is fine, because I think one thing that does, okay, let's say it's Saturday is 38 with wins. You don't have to race that event. You can come back on Sunday and maybe it's 45 or 50. It gives you another chance of hitting a home run. And these tracks need as many home runs as they can. So I like the 2-day Icebreaker. I think it gives you more opportunities to make a little jingle headed into the season. YouTube user, what's up with Logan Wagner? That's a good question. Logan Wagner, he's calling around. I've heard some rumors about him running one of his dad's cars. He has a family. His job's it takes him away from the racetrack. He's not going to run full time for the Port Royal title. So I thought he would get in a 27, the Hefner car. I really did, but that didn't happen. Steve Snyder is running that 600 star in the area, and people obviously heard of him, Tulsa Shootout and whatnot. So, but Logan Wagner right now, as far as I know, as of this week, is still looking for a ride, and they just aren't plentiful in central Pennsylvania. It's difficult getting rides, especially at this time of year. That stuff starts earlier and earlier every year. You almost got to know by September, so you know what to do. So can have a crack at a ride. Just ask Zeb Wise, even though he's being selective. So we'll see what Logan has by the time the season starts. The good news is he doesn't have to worry about it till March, because that's when Port Royal starts. Rick Hare, who do you think will be the biggest surprise in Central Pennsylvania in 2025? Oh boy. Well, Troy Walkerman Jr. isn't a surprise anymore. So, I still like Aaron Bollinger. I think last year he had a good start with the Esch Racing team, won a couple races. I think he can win a race at BAPS. I think he can win a race in that 19 he runs. He's going to run that a little at Williams Grove. So I would say Aaron Bollinger is definitely a guy to watch moving forward. He's young. He just keeps getting better every year. And now he's not fitting the bill for a family car. And they just didn't have enough resources to run more races to get better. And also just to keep going if, say, he had an engine blow or got in a crash. So that's my guy this year. Michael Harlicker, should we do away with regular handicap shows? Wow. Who didn't know that one was coming? I know the big teams want that to happen. I did a story with Kyle Moody, who also stated that one of the reasons he's not running Lincoln every week is because he doesn't want to come from seventh in a heat race and maybe try to pass somebody who he doesn't feel should be starting up front. So I think a lot of guys don't want it. I'm big on hot lap time trials. I really am. I know some drivers and teams don't like it, but you know what? I think it's fair. Nobody gets an advantage. Hot lap time trials for me. Corey Neshaw, our boy Corey out in Minnesota. Are you doing the Woo Dirt Car Nationals pool? Of course. It's gambling. Why wouldn't I do it? The Chaz, are all 4 of the Outlaw races this week non-points? No, only Wednesday is non-points. I think it's incredibly, I don't like it. I don't know why Wednesday's non-points. They did away with the Tuesday night. They did away with the Tuesday night practice night. So I understand, but nobody went to that anyway. Like it was like 16, 17 guys, maybe 20. Again, as I stated earlier, I don't like non-points events. We have enough of them with the Knoxville Nationals, the Kings Royal, and other races where the format isn't a traditional outlaw format. Guess what? They're all traditional outlaw formats this week. So Wednesday's non-points is just 50 point show-up points, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday are regular point events. Again, I think all 4 of them should be points because the gap between these positions and feature action isn't enough. It's hard to make up ground. I think they should take the points and widen them up a little bit. I think you should get more to win. And I think that would create a better point battle. Hey, Jeremy, do you know what Dylan Norris's plans are for 2025? Yeah, he's gonna run his car, and I think he's gonna run the Gainey car when it comes east, if I'm not mistaken. I know that's still up in the air, but he is going to run his own car. I think they have a couple motors. They're getting things squared away for 2025. Dalton Ferris, what's going on with Zeb Wise? Zeb Wise is being selective. Zeb Wise does not, I did a story on sprintcarlimited.com. He does not want to just jump in anything. Maybe the equipment's not as good, or maybe, he's just passing time, so to speak. He's going to be selective. He wants to run a national tour. He feels he should be running a national tour and not running regionally anymore. So I think he's waiting until I know he was talking to somebody. I'm not going to say who because I'm not going to burn Zeb. Him and I talked off the record, but nothing's been finalized yet. And if it doesn't get finalized, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, guys get fired every year early. he'll be the top of the list to get a phone call. So we'll see what happens with Zeb. Mo, any idea on what Lance DeWeese will be driving this year? He will be driving the Shearer number 12 again. And I think, Lance gets written off a lot. And I think I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it. Last year, he was back to, it was kind of a new team, and he was calling some of the shots. And I think it was a meshing thing. Not that they didn't get along. It just, they just didn't have the year they expected. I expect that team to be a lot better this year, but he'll be running the Shearer 12. So, and you never know. He might, he was supposed to, there was rumors that he was going to jump in the 88, the Hess Iron car. That car will not be running 410 sprint cars. So that is not part of the equation. Guardrail report. Jeremy, have you heard anything on the status of Pete Grove 70 or Rudzik 49? I do know Pete Grove has reached out to a couple of people. I know one of them was Devin Borden. And Devin Borden went with Brian Grove, ironically. So it's still up in the air. No driver announcement yet. Rudzik car, I've not heard anything either. It's been pretty quiet in both camps. Cliff Adams, best guess for Rookie of the Year for High Limit: Chase Randall, Dason Pursley, Danny Sams III, Cy Lynch. Should be Aaron Reitzel, but that's another story. It's going to be a good battle, and I think it's going to be between Chase Randall and Dason Pursley. Dason, stars on the rise. Won a midget title, looked good at Chili Bowl. Not that midgets, carries over to 410s. But I've watched him in a 410. He was decent in the 25 car. Didn't look bad. Set quick time at Bridgeport last year to close out the season for the boot car. Something to think about. If you could time well, you're good on a national tour. It puts you in position. So I think Dason Pursley, it's going to be close. I think that battle will be better than the Outlaws battle between Cole Macedo and Hunter Schoenberg. So I'm gonna go Dason Pursley, maybe in a little bit of an upset there. So Corey Neeshaw, Gio Scelzi was really good up through Knoxville Nationals. What happened to him the last quarter of the season? It was really odd because it was in California where, it was odd. I thought he would actually excel in California, but I think Carson Macedo, Buddy Kofoid got better. I think that was a big part of it. But Gio, hey man, it's tough when you run 70 World of Outlaws events. He started out on fire, and I just think it dropped off. We had a interview with him last week on our podcast for SprintCarUnlimited.com, and he said they just lost speed at the end of the year. He has 2 new crew guys this year. So that's something to watch also going into the Dirt Car Nationals and through the first part of the season. So we'll have to see how Gio does. The Chaz, why is the 83 Junior throwing away a high limit charter spot, especially if this was supposed to be such an alluring thing to obtain for teams? I knew they weren't coming back anyway. I don't think it's a case. Brent Ventura, who is the crew chief for that team, has a family. He doesn't want to be on the road. That's part of it. Nobody knows what the charter is yet. Let's be honest. And Roth doesn't need money. If Roth lost $1 million a year in racing, it doesn't really make a dent. He's one of the wealthiest owners in the sport. Let's be honest. So I just don't think a charter was ever in their future, unless maybe if James stuck around. And James, it was a 3-4 year plan with his wife, and his wife is in the medical field in Australia. They went home, and I think that was it. So I just think it was one of those things where if it wasn't James, because they could have got Chase Randall, they could have got other guys, and they just didn't do it. I don't think a charter was ever in their future as far as being out there full time. John Kiley, when will the Outlaws gambling be allowed in PA? If I had that answer, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you guys. Good question. Don't know. There's a lot of hoops to jump through when you're doing that. And again, there's 2 types of gambling. Now, I think you'll be able to do the fantasy gambling. where you can pick a team kind of like dirt drafts, but I know for me, that holds no interest for me. I want to bet like I bet on the NFL. And it could be a long time until you get into Central PA because the platforms, your DraftKings, your FanDuels, and BetMGMs, they want to see the numbers. They want to see how it takes off. They're not going to lose thousands of dollars just throwing caution to the wind. So it's going to be a process, and it'll be a long one. Zachary Settle from Settle Racing again. How do you think Bell will do in the 69K down in Florida? Well, he's going to run the first night, see how it goes, and then maybe Thursday night. They will not run Friday, Saturday. So I think he'll be okay. Christopher Bell likes Volusia. Don Kreitz Jr. hasn't been there for about 30 years. So it'll be interesting to see if they get, but look, it's a gel session. This is to see if they mesh. So when they go to Vegas and they run together on that Thursday in Vegas, that's really the focal point. And we'll see if the relationship goes on from there. Jim Gifford, my boy up in Buffalo, how is the Knoxville weekly field shaping up as far as newcomers, and is Lincoln on a part-time streaming deal again? The first one, Knoxville's a commuter track. If you look at their schedule, they have 11, 12 regular weekly programs they get in, and guys pop in and out, which always makes their weekly program a must-see. It's centrally located. A lot of guys can jump in there. The high limit guys, when they're off, they can jump in and out. Obviously, you can get special permission if you're with the Outlaws. So that's an option. So I think the field will be good. Their purses are unbelievable. Nobody comes close to them for a weekly sprint car purse to Knoxville. They really up the ante, and it's to keep the guys home. They want to keep their guys. So I think they'll be fine. The second part, Lincoln, yes, is on a part-time streaming deal. This is their last year with Flow. Obviously, I'm sure Flow will try and get them back after that. Maybe not. But yes, they are on a part-time deal, and this is the last year of their 5-year deal. I'll answer a couple more questions. Obviously, I apologize for the phone thing not working. Eric, who's done a great job getting this thing off the ground and helping me out. We will work on it and have it ready for next Tuesday. The Chaz, what platforms can me and you bet on Florida where it's legal this week? Oregon, Connecticut, and Ontario, Canada. So that's a pretty long drive. Why is Reitzel not a high limit rookie? Because he ran over 60% of the World of Outlaws races in 2021. So he's been part of a national tour. So they're viewing that as he is not a rookie. Corey Neshaw. By the way, I didn't say I agree with it. I'm actually, before I get to Corey Neshaw, I'm really split on it, actually. I understand the rule, and I'm not overly upset about it, but I think it could lead to some interpretation things down the road. So, let's say, I don't know, Garrett Williamson decides to flip. Now you're putting, and I like Garrett Williamson, don't get me wrong, but now you're putting him on the same level as Aaron Reitzel, who has Tuscarora 50 win, sat on the pole of the Knoxville Nationals, 3-time All-Star champion, won outlaw races. So that's the kind of the sticky side of it. Corey, High Limit seems willing to work with World Racing Group and Woo in co-sanctioning races. Why does World Racing Group not want to work with High Limit? Well, it started out with High Limit wanting to like a midweek series within the World of Outlaws. Look, when you're taught, if you want to know the problem with anything, follow the money. And the World Racing Group has Dirt Vision. They have the way that, they have their company. And by the way, Brian Carter not being in the Hall of Fame is a travesty, because when he took that over 2006 and in that area, the Outlaws were in a lot of trouble. So he's built a successful business. Dirt Vision, It's profitable. Wasn't always profitable. So I just don't. And I think he probably, and I'm guessing here, I think he probably feels a little betrayed by Brad, who, and I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying he probably feels that way because, he's a 5-time Outlaw champion and, now he's going to start a rival series, quote unquote. So, and at this point, I think High Limit would work with World Racing Group, albeit I do think it's not where it was 2 years ago. So, maybe someday, maybe in Fairy Tale Land. Jimmy V, in April, we have a couple of Selinsgrove versus Williams Grove on Friday nights. Your thoughts? Hate the decision. You can not like Williams Grove. You can debate the racing. You can say they haven't upgraded in a long time. It's still Williams Grove. When I go outside the area, nobody asks me who wins at these other tracks, or very rarely. I always get asked who wins at Williams Grove. So I think the first year after a disaster, 2 years for Selinsgrove, the new regime comes in and the first thing they do is run against Williams Grove. That doesn't endear yourself to the other tracks in the area. And Pennsylvania is I don't want to say it's cutthroat, but hey, Pennsylvania, they remember everything. So I just don't think it was a smart move. I know they talked to some drivers about it when I interviewed the new regime, but it's not, the inmates can't run the asylum. You can ask them, but it's just not, it wasn't a good business plan in my opinion. Another YouTube user, what's your take on post-race tech or lack thereof with National Series? Is there tech? I've been critical of the tech process look, I think Tom Devitt with the World of Outlaws did a good job. Do I think the tech is what it should be? No. I like what Knoxville does for the Nationals. To me, that's the best tech. And I think Australia, now I've never been to Australia, but I imagine, considering it's government run, considering they have drug testing, considering they have all these things, they probably have better tech than we do. We need to do better with this because people now are conspiracy theorists all the time. They want a conspiracy because that's kind of how our society is going. So people are going to question more than ever whether there is a reason or isn't a reason. So I think the National Series both have to step up and make things as on the level as they can. Santos de la Cruz, any opinion on Rookie of the Year now with Chase Randall declaring for the High Limit Championship? Yeah, I think Jason Pursley, I'm still giving him the slight nod. I young, talented, and Chase is young and talented. I think it's going to be close. I think that rookie battle could be closer than Cole Macedo and Schoenberg, which a couple weeks ago I picked Schoenberg. After watching Cole Macedo last week, I'm thinking about it. So I don't know, but we've gone 45 minutes. The chat's this was the last question. So I'm going to give everybody 1 or 2 minutes. If you want to send in another question, I'm going to wrap things up here, get something to eat, maybe unpack a little bit. Again, travel to the Sunshine State was great on the plane. Man, never book a rental car off site from the airport. Food for thought. But again, I apologize for the phone situation. We're going to work on it. Eric and I, he's done a great job so far. We're going to work it out, and we hope to have everything up and running and smooth by next Tuesday. We both took notes. I do have another question. Dalton Ferris, who's winning Woo and High Limit Championship? The easy picks are David and Brad, and sometimes the easy picks are the right ones. Let's put it this way. I think Buddy Kofoid is a future World of Outlaws champion. I think if David's going to be beat, Carson Macedo is going to be the guy to do it. He has his team back. If the leg's fine, which I think it probably will be, he's going to get off to a better start. Carson Macedo, watch him. I think he can knock gravel off. Brad Sweet, he has a new crew chief in Ty Wolfgang, but KKR just rinse and repeat. Those guys do a great job. So I'm going to say Brad Sweet. Alexander Steigel, I just joined. Any news if True Timber is joining Baston with JMR? I have not heard that yet. It's been pretty quiet out of that camp. So I have to say I haven't heard anything about that yet. But maybe. Who wins tomorrow? I forget who I picked on my podcast. Damn it. I try and keep that pretty close. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with gravel tomorrow, just because established, good at Volusia. Santos again. How do you feel Devin Borden will fare with the All-Star Circuit of Champions this year in the Grove 45? If they stay together, he should be running for the title. Devin has seen more action. He's been to that. He's been to that kind of running in Central Pennsylvania all the time. He's used to running against big time guys. How he does in Ohio, there's a lip. He'll be good. Dry slick. I think Devin Borden's going to be one of the top two guys. I would pick him to win it. I think there's a couple other guys in there that, Brandon Spideller runs well in Ohio, but Devin will be in the top three. Michael Harlacher, will Parsons be in Dallas next season? I like the football question. I hope not. As a Dallas fan, I would trade him for picks. I would trade him for needs. Their salary cap, it's not as bad as New Orleans, but it's not great. You paid Dak, so now you're going to pay another guy. You paid CeeDee Lamb. I covered him in high school. He's a great player. Is he Myles Garrett where he changes and wrecks a game? Because if you look at those playoff losses to Green Bay last year, he had 2 tackles. He was a non-factor. You can't have that. So I would trade him. Jim Gifford, what national tour will be the first back to Calistoga? I think that'll be High Limit. I think that's something that's Brad wants to do. Jeff, have you heard anything about Rico? I've heard he has a hand/wrist injury. He plans to be ready by March. He never made an official announcement for High Limit, but he is on their driver roster. I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's an issue. Some of the Instagram workouts, I'm not sure if they're recent, but Rico will be fine. He, again, I don't think he would have committed for High Limit or they'd be using him if he wouldn't be ready by March. And he has time yet. He will not be in Florida. And I doubt he races at all before Vegas. Alexander, finally, is there any reason Paul Silva runs an all-white livery on the 57? With Larson's popularity, it'd be more marketable if the car had a design to sell more merch. He sells a lot of merch now. I don't think Silva wants to deal with that stuff. Like Silva, it's hard to get an interview with him. Silva works on the car. He is focused on the car. I think outside of the guys he gets, in California, Falcons, I just don't think that's what he's there for. He runs a pick and choose schedule, limited schedule. I know he has a family now. Again, I just think it's just what he chooses. Santos, last one for the night. Do you think we see a first-time Williams Grove track champion? And thank you for starting this up. Badass show. Can't wait until next week. I can't wait till we can get the phones working. I just think but we're going to work on that. No, you're not going to see a first-time Williams Grove champion. I don't think. I think Freddie Raymer is the guy to beat. And the other thing is, how many guys run every Williams Grove race? It's the same thing Saturday nights at Lincoln, same things at Port Royal. You just don't have guys running every week. So it's Freddie Ramers to lose. If Troy Wagaman runs every week, and if they went to, they went to maybe time trial shows there, I think Troy would definitely could beat him. But outside of that, Dietrich's going to miss some races. Although when he's there, I mean, he almost beat him a couple years ago when he missed a couple shows. So no, it's Freddie Ramers to lose. So, well, I think that's it for the chat. And we're going to get out of here. Again, I'm going to grab something to eat, and I'm going to kind of debrief here with my producer, and we're going to figure out the problems. I appreciate everybody joining the show. Again, I apologize again for not having the call thing worked out. We'll get it worked out, and we'll be back next Tuesday from Florida again at 7:30. Stay tuned.